Hey there everyone, Rock here, and today I want to talk about the three most common mistakes I see new tanks make in Mythic Plus. This season I have been doing a quite bit more healing and I've been pugging a lot more, so I've been getting a lot more. I've been pugging as a healer a lot more. And I have seen a lot of tanks and I have compiled the three biggest mistakes I have seen tanks make in Mythic Plus. Before we get into it though, please do like, comment, subscribe. It does really go such a long way towards helping out the channel. There is a Patreon link down below if you wish to support me directly. Twitch link, come watch me stream. Always fun there. And a Discord link if you have any questions or you want anything you see on stream. All of that, Discord link down below. All right, number one, active mitigation. So tanks have this thing called active mitigation. For bears, it's Iron Fur. Paladins, Shield of the Righteous. Protection Warriors is Shield Block. Bone Shield for Death Knight, we'll touch on that a little bit. Stagger for Monk and Purifying Brew for Stagger Management, and Demon Spikes for Demon Hunters. And the point of these active mitigations, if you do not understand by the words, is obviously to keep them active. These are the things that are going to, over the course of a run, allow you to take the least amount of damage possible. Shield Block alone for Warrior is broken in some dungeons like Vortex Pinnacle against the Gust Soldiers and like all of Freehold. It's really, really crazy, right? Because you have active defensives, which is stuff like if we're using Bear, for example, Bear is very possible. Bark Skin and Survival Instincts, which actively reduces damage taken by a percentage, depending on what talents you have selected, blah, 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 whatever. But active mitigation, which is Iron Fur, which gives you big stacks of armor for every stack of Iron Fur you have. And before you ask yourself, oh man, I can't, how many bears are pressing Iron Fur? I have seen more than one run where Iron Fur uptime in a 30-minute dungeon was 20% or less overall. I have seen 20% or less Shield of the Righteous, Shield Block. I have seen Monks die to Stagger, although that one's a little bit more rare. And I have seen Demon Hunters literally never press Demon Spikes. 0% uptime in an entire run. And those people were yelling at the healers for more heals and demanding and wondering why they're dying. Well, I'm telling you why. You need to be babysat constantly because you're not using active mitigation, okay? The point of being a tank is to hold all the threat, okay? Hold all the threat, don't die. And that's on you. Very rarely should a tank require an active amount of healing. Now, every tank is going to require some healing at some point or another in the dungeon, but it is not up to the healer to spam you with heals the entire time. It is not. That's not how this game works anymore. If you are dying, you have to ask yourself why. And the first thing you should go look at is your active mitigation uptime or management in the case of Brewmaster Monk. Brewmaster Monk, the stagger mitigation is built in as a passive, and it is up to you to manage that dot. The more damage you take, the larger the stagger dot, and Purifying Brew removes a large chunk of that stagger, and it is up to you to management. Death Knight is a little bit different. Death Knight has the active mitigation in Bone Shield, which if just by using your rotational abilities, you should mostly be upkeeping at least one minimum stack of Bone Shield, although you should, have more if you're running Ossuary, which you should be. You should have at least five stacks of Bone Shield rolling. But the thing that I see with Death Knights a lot, especially coming in from Season 3 and 4 Shadowlands into Dragonflight, and if anybody played Blood DK and is picking up that spec again, it is no longer a Heartstrike spam bot, okay? It's not. That's the way it used to be. That's not the way it is now. So I see a lot of Death Knights sitting on 125 runic power because part of your active mitigation is healing yourself back up. Blood DK, I'm the healer now. Merch available down below. So it is important that you don't sit on runic power and sit at like 30% health because it's, especially as a Death Knight, it's really not up to the healer to heal you. If you die as a Death Knight, that is pretty much entirely up to you. There has yet to be a death on my Death Knight where I'm like, yo, healer, why didn't you heal me? No, it's basically 99.99999% of the time always been my fault. I mismanage my runes, I mismanage my runic power, I mismanage my defensives, I mismanage something because when you are playing Death Knight correctly, you are pretty much just unkillable. You are immortal until something over the top crazy happens, okay? Second mistake I see most tanks, well, a lot of new tanks making in Mythic Plus is routing. Now, in lower keys, this is a little bit more of acceptable mistake to make, but when you come in from heroic dungeons to Mythic Plus, there's a new thing called trash count. I know, and you need to get 100% trash. The amount of Brackenhide Hollows that I've run at an 11 or 16 or 17, where the tank gets to the last boss, and we still have like 20% trash left to go, and we're asking, like, dude, we need count. Where are you getting count? Like, and it's obvious they're following a heroic route that they leveled up in, and they're just doing the same thing, and that's not the case anymore. You need to have count. Now, no one's expecting you to know every little single pull or anything in when you're first learning, okay? That's fine. Especially earlier on in the season, this is a lot more acceptable because we're all learning the dungeons and we're all trying to kind of figure things out. So the earlier in the season, obviously, the less that you have to know about the routing. But later in the season, common routes start kind of just spreading like wildfire, and expectations are kind of set here. There's always sometimes a little deviation. You know, Brackenhide Hollow has a little bit of deviations here, there, and there. Neltharis as well has, how many chain pulls are you doing or things like that. Have some sort of different variations, but you have to have some sort of idea where you're getting 100%. And don't go for like 160% count either. That's not good. You're just wasting a lot of time that people just want to go in and time the key, get their loot, and get out, right? So don't just, sometimes pressing W, you will end up with way too much count. So have some sort of plan for this. Now, by having some sort of plan, you can download MDT. It is an add-on, and it will show you a map of the dungeon, and you can click on everything and make your own routes and see what percentages everything is. You can also plug in other people's routes. If you're not sure as a tank, if you're a new tank and you're like, I don't really know which way I should be going, ask to see if somebody has a route. Very commonly, at least one person in your party will have a saved route in MDT. Right? I've got like 6 or 7 for each dungeon where I'm like, okay, this is my more pug-friendly route. This is my more aggressive route. This is my low-key route. This is my high-key route, right? Because what I do in a 23 is not what I'm going to necessarily do in a 16. The two are very different with what you can get away with and what you can't get away with. But you do have to have some sort of idea. Number 3, new tanks. Now, this one's for existing players who swap to tanking. Expecting too much from pugs. You have to look at IO, past IO. You have to look at, you have to make a judgment based on your first few pulls in the dungeon of what your group is capable of. Sometimes I have seen tanks literally, so for me, what I do is on the first pull of a dungeon, I'm gonna kind of maybe, if it's a lower route or whatever, in a 23 and I know I can take care of it, I'll take care of it. But if it's a 17 or an 18 and I want to be pulling bigger, but I don't know if my group is going to have any interrupts whatsoever or use any of their AoE stops whatsoever or help with any utility whatsoever, I'll let something slip that I know that I could probably help with. I might let a kick go, a chain lightning off one of the first mobs in Ultimate or something, to see if people are interrupting, to see if people are playing to what the dungeon needs. Oh, did this need dispelled? Oh, I have a disease dispel, but I'm going to wait to see if this disease dispel DPS in my party is going to actively use it or not. Okay, so I know how many vile rot hexens I can work in a little bit later or whatever. But I will change my routing sizes, the pulls sizes that I have, based on how many kicks and interrupts and how many people I see actually using their utility in a dungeon. And oftentimes I see tanks that have sometimes they have 3200k IO on a DPS, and they go in a tank and they're like, well, everyone in the push group, this is how we do dungeons. Yeah, dude, you have new players here. You have people that don't know what they're doing. You have people that literally don't understand what an interrupt is in the party. You have to play according to the group that you have available to you, and every pug group is different. And sometimes they just literally expect too much from people that just don't know what's going on. And this is something that you're going to have to judge for yourself along the way as you get going and as you get learning, and really kind of readjust. If you've ever been in a group with me and I have only ever pulled small pulls along the way, well knowing that we could time it, it's literally because I didn't trust everyone in that party to use their interrupts. And before you even say, oh, people not using interrupts in low keys is just, it's a low key problem. I literally had a mage in a 22 Vortex Pinnacle with 0 interrupts at the end of the dungeon. Want to know if we timed that or not? We didn't. And that was a 22. So just because you think, oh, it's a low key problem, no, it's not. You see this across every key spectrum. Now, I do have a video of Mythic Plus expectations already out and about. There is a link for that one down below. If you are interested, that one is for beginners as well, which covers over the more broad views of kind of the expectations of Mythic Plus. That's what I have for you today. Thank you very much for watching, everyone. Happy tanking.